Hey everyone, this is a Science Walrus and welcome to the next video. So this video will be kind of an introduction to human blood. So as you're probably aware, human blood is incredibly important for our survival. It has many primary functions. The one that most people know is that it carries oxygen and carbon dioxide. It also transports some of the immune system, such as leukocytes or white blood cells. And it transports various other biologically important molecules such as hormones. These are the main functions of the blood transport system. So as I just said, the blood is the human body's transport system. It's kind of like a road network in a city. So if you think about a city road system, you would have roads that bring cars to and from places. These roads are analogous to blood vessels. Blood travels through these blood vessels. Various automobiles on the road correspond to blood going to and from places. So basic roads like these are like blood vessels. Now there's also arteries in your body. They bring oxygenated blood away from the heart. The most traffic is located in these highways. These continue to branch and branch and branch off until you get to the smallest unit, which are called capillaries. As I mentioned before, there's a lot of things that are in your blood. Red blood cells, many kinds of proteins, hormones, and immune cells are just a few of the things that circulate in your body through blood vessels. A lot of the things we digest go straight to our bloodstream. That's how we get glucose and proteins into our blood, is through our digestive system. And I'll go over that a little bit more when we get to the digestive system unit. But that's how it gets there ultimately in your blood vessels. So one common blood test that's done in hospitals is called a hematocrit. So what a hematocrit blood test is it measures the varying composition of different parts of your blood. So this bottom part here is called the hematocrit, and this measures all the red blood cells that were in a sample. This buffy coat here, which is not green, it's normally whitish in a healthy person, but I didn't have a white marker, and that would be pointless, so it's kind of green, but just keep in mind that it's more of a whitish foamy thing. But this has all the white blood cells and platelets in the blood sample. The last part here is plasma, and that's essentially anything that's not in the buffy coat and red blood cells in the blood sample. So anything that's not red blood cells, platelets, and leukocytes. So in a healthy female, the hematocrit level, or the amount of the sample that is this red part here, is anywhere between 37% and 47%. In males, it's similar, but a little different. Healthy levels are usually between 42 and 52%. So now that you have an understanding of what's in the blood and how it's measured, I'll go into a little bit more detail on what each of the things in the blood are. Okay. Now that you have a better idea of what's in the blood and how it's measured, I'll go over in a little bit more detail what the things in the blood do. So red blood cells are these circular shaped cells that carry oxygen from the lungs to the body's tissues and carry carbon dioxide the other way, so from the body's tissues out to the lungs where you can then exhale it. Red blood cells are circular, and in the middle they are concave, so they're thinner in the middle and thicker on the outside. And if you don't know exactly quite what I'm talking about, because it's kind of hard to draw in here, you can just look up a picture, just type in red blood cell, and you'll see what I'm talking about. This shape, and it's not entirely clear why this is, but it is better at taking in oxygen and carbon dioxide, so it can bind to the red blood cell better. I'll go over more of that when I get into the red blood cells video. So going back to our highway analogy, red blood cells are kind of like the transport trucks of the highway. They pick up items and deliver them. So in the red blood cells case, they pick up oxygen from the lungs, deliver them to the body tissues, and then they bring carbon dioxide, which is a waste product of metabolism, from these body tissues back to the lungs where you can then exhale it out. So another type of cell that you can find in the blood are called leukocytes, or white blood cells. There are different types of white blood cells. What I drew here resembles more of a neutrophil, which acts as a phagocyte. It will ingest foreign substances and get rid of them out of the body. So bacteria being an example, will find this pathogen and ingest it and kill it so it can't infect you. And white blood cells are analogous to police officers in a city. They make sure nothing unwanted, such as criminals, which is analogous to bacteria, gets into the blood systems. You also have these cells called platelets, and as I drew, they are much smaller than the rest of the cells in the bloodstream. And their primary job is to clot blood to repair blood vessels, especially when there's an injury. So if you cut a blood vessel and you started bleeding, these will clot the blood so that you stop bleeding, and then the repair process can take place. Now when blood clots, it sticks together into clumps to form a wall of sorts, and this is a natural process normally. This blood clotting is meant to prevent blood from escaping, so if you create a wall of blood where the platelets act almost as glue to hold it together, then you can see how it would kind of create like a temporary fix until a more permanent solution, which is fixing the blood vessel itself, can be done. Now there are obviously times where blood clots can be dangerous, but most of the time blood clotting is physiologically normal. Thrombocytes are kind of like the traffic controllers of the road system. They don't necessarily fix the problem of the road, but they're going to stop traffic, which is analogous to clotting blood, to make sure nothing gets through the damage, because then that would damage the contents going through itself. The thrombocytes don't actually participate in fixing the problem, but they work to create a temporary solution until the actual problem can be fixed, and then they'll go away. And then the rest of the traffic on the road system is just other things going through, more analogous to civilian cars. You have hormones, proteins, a bunch of other things that are in the blood. There's just so many that it doesn't make sense to go through each and every one, because I could go through many things, specific things that could be found in the blood. But for the sake of now, the purposes of this intro video, this is what I'm covering, and I'll go into more in depth the more videos I come out with. So one of the most important things to blood is H2O, or water. And this is because it makes up 92% of blood plasma, so it's the bulk of what our blood is. And it's important for regulating concentration of our blood. So a big topic in biological physiology is solute over solvent. It's concentrations. And if we think about our blood as a concentration, where this is pretty much everything in our blood, but the solvent is water, you have a pretty relatively constant and stable ratio of solute to solvent, so the blood to water. However, if we say take away water and subtract water from this and bring it out of the body, then the solute becomes more concentrated, and this causes a number of problems. The one concern is, as you get rid of water, your blood becomes thicker because water kind of dilutes it. So as your blood becomes thicker, your heart has to work harder to push all the blood, and this can cause a lot of different problems, which I'll go over in later videos. What happens when you add water into the system? Well, then your blood becomes overly diluted, and this does make it thinner, which sounds good because it's the opposite of what I said before. So now it's easier for your heart to pump blood because it's thinner. The issue is you dilute everything else. If there's so much water that your body can't adequately use the nutrients and other things it needs in the blood to sustain life. Severe dehydration or overhydration are both fatal. It's easier to dehydrate because it's easier to not drink water than it is to drink water. Your body also has mechanisms to counteract both, but the systems for overhydration generally are easier and quicker than your body's way of defending against dehydration. So your body, as I just mentioned, regulates water. There's a few ways it retains water, and I won't go over the specifics of that now. So that's all I had planned for this intro video, and it's just an intro video, so I just briefly touched up on a few of the things found in human blood. And if that's all you want to learn, that's completely fine, but the next videos are going to come out it's going to be the red blood cells and platelets videos. So we'll go into much more in depth onto red blood cells and platelets and what they do and how they're built. So then the next unit that I'm going to go over is the immune system. So I'll go over more on leukocytes and the rest of the immune system, which is going to be its own unit based on how dense it is. So that wraps up the intro video, and as I said, intro videos are going to start videos off, so they're not going to cover that much in detail. They're just going to give you a brief introduction as to what I'm going to cover in the unit, and then I'll start coming out with more detailed videos that will explain more of the detailed concepts. So this video likely doesn't answer all your questions, but at least give you an idea of what I'm going to come out with next, and give you a base for what I'm going to teach next. Thank you for listening. I hope this was helpful for you, and have a nice day.